Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Mid-South Wrestling Review Series for December 7th, 1985. Not that there's a lot to this. Things are, I don't want to say winding down, but certainly much different than they used to be with this name. Obviously, the change is coming. So Ted DiBiase announces that he, in fact, will return, wants revenge on everybody from Dick Slater to Ric Flair, to Dick Murdoch, who caused him trouble. Ric Flair is also in a promo situation where he is being fined by Mid-South $25,000 for his involvement with the bounties on various people, including Butch Reed and Ted DiBiase and all of that. He is not happy with that, obviously, but he basically says the cost of doing business is not that big a deal for him from his perspective, because that's the kind of money he makes. It's the cost of doing business. Dick Slater says he wants the North American title. I don't necessarily know that him versus Reed's gonna pull down a whole bunch of runs there. Obviously, Dick Slater, not Dick Slater, Jim Duggan and Butch Reed have formulated a friendship. Deborah Duggan, who was laid out by Dick Slater and Buzz Sawyer several months back, is back in the ring, and this time alongside the Hacksaws, Reed and Duggan. And the promise is she'll be taken care of in a positive way. And obviously Butch Reed basically tells Dick Slater to come on down for the North American title shot when he wants it. Nightmare in a singles match here this week. Obviously, the Nightmare has been a major force for Sir Oliver Humperdinck. But before we get there, actually, missing match in sequence, and that is the Hacksaws in a match of their own. Post the interview, Hacksaws, Butch Reed, and Jim Duggan in an enhancement match. They are kind of rubbing up against each other as, I guess you'd say, the top baby faces. So when Duggan leaves in time for WrestleMania 3, this has to be kind of a death kill to Mid-South, I would imagine, because Duggan's been here almost at least since 82. Deborah Duggan at ringside, which kind of contradicts what Jim Duggan had said in previous promos, that he didn't necessarily agree with having a woman at ringside. But both Hacksaws, managed to brawl, hit their opponents, the enhancement talents, together. Duggan hits a body slam followed by a knee drop and kind of takes the opponents out. Butch Reed still managing to go pretty aggressively there. Match is over really quickly, and obviously no real challenge because there aren't real challengers in that situation. Then we go to a Dick Slater matchup here. Slater against let's see, Dick Slater versus one half of actually an enhancement talent there. Obviously, Eddie Gilbert trying to steal time there. Eddie Gilbert is your, television champion at this point. Gilbert strutting around, managed now by Humperdinck, or loosely affiliated with Humperdinck. Gilbert in some pinkish, purplish pants. Don't really understand the alliance with him and Humperdinck. I don't necessarily think Eddie needed a manager at this point, but it is what it is. Good wrestling work by both guys. Gilbert comes up with the armbar, but holds the arm down for a bit. Slater comes up, tries to be a little more aggressive. Slater obviously has his mind more focused on the championship that is held by Butch Reed. Big back body drop by Slater. Slater off with the shoulder tackles, followed by the forearms. Gilbert manages to catch a stun gun on his opponent, and Gilbert gets victory here. Then we go to after Gilbert wins Nightmare and Sean O'Reilly TV tournament bout. Nightmare number two is what he's been termed anyway. Not exactly a hard shot for O'Reilly. Of course, the Nightmare, former North American champion in his own right, several whiles ago. Sean O'Reilly gets sidestepped with a drop kick, and Nightmare manages to punch kick, drop some elbows, and get a relatively quick victory, or tries to anyway. O'Reilly doesn't want to quit quite that quickly, but eventually does find himself succumbing to a loss. Not to be surprised with a guy like the Nightmare. Nightmare is a stocky guy. Interesting that Ted Allen never went anywhere else of major note that I can remember. Maybe Pensacola, Alabama type territory, but I don't really think he did, not like a WCW, WWF type run. Clotheslined by Allen, and he manages to come up and get a victory here. Then we move to, and that was a tournament match. Dick Slater and Al Perez also a tournament match for the television championship. Obviously moving towards television championship planning, I guess, even in this point in 85 to go more towards a national. Dick Slater wants more competition. He wants more of everything. And Dark Journey still with him. I don't necessarily understand the benefit of Dark Journey at this point for a guy like Dick Slater. Slater doesn't really necessarily seem to need the extra heat. Butch Reed had made the challenge earlier and basically calls out Slater for a later North American Championship match. Butch Reed ready to fight. Butch Reed probably, if not the number one, definitely the number two, flip-flopping with Jim Duggan. Guy, babyface in the territory at the time, which really to me shows how far things have fallen. I know there are people that like Butch Reed, but Butch Reed traded down from the Junkyard Dog, not exactly good for the African American community. No disrespect to Reed since he's just passed away, but certainly not a guy who one would say was a main eventer for a long-term run. Anyway, so Perez tries to lock up, tries to stay mind on matter with Slater. Slater obviously much more the brawler. Perez still a young enough baby face where he's not doing as much brawling. Not saying he's not doing any, but even Slater goes to work on the arms, so he does wrestle upon occasion. Hip tossed by Perez. Perez finds himself in a key lock. Not the place you want to be with a guy like Dick Slater. Slater prefers to brawl, but can lock you up in hold and stretch you all the way from Sunday, from what I've seen. Even though he, to me, is or was, I think he's passed away now, pretty sure he has, was a Terry Funk ripoff. That's all I really saw Dick Slater as, but that's just one person's opinion. Anyway, Perez manages to want to come out and try to fight, try to wrestle a more aggressive style. Slater manages to, get an abdominal stretch and then get some ride time on him on the mat, and then tries to drop an elbow, doesn't get what he wants on the elbow drop. But Perez certainly has had enough experience now where he can be guided to a decent singles match that's a non-squash quality. I don't necessarily know that he could guide one himself, but a big backslide by Perez. Perez doesn't get what he wants on that. Gets enough of a short-term advantage, but not the victory he was looking for out of it. Back elbow by Slater. Slater frustrated, to say the very least, and trying to create some issues. The German suplex that Perez came in with manages to get a 2.5 count, but Slater finds himself in the ropes, which forces the break. Slater pulls his man back to his feet, tries to go for the pile driver, but Perez backdrops the man over. Always wondered where that sequence came from. Probably the somewhere in the 70s, maybe even Ray Stevens possibly, but maybe before. Who I don't know, but anyway, an attempted roll up by Perez, and then the Slater uses the tights to get a victory there and advance to the next round. Doctor Death and Sawyer versus Backlund and Cooper. Doctor Death and Buzz Sawyer makes for an interestingly scary tandem, to say the very least. Jimmy Backlund not exactly in a place where he wants to be, getting beat up by both guys, Williams and Sawyer. Backlund, of course, becomes Jimmy Del Rey later in his career. This is one of the first times that I've seen military press style. I mean, I've seen Doc press a guy over his head, but it's the first time I think I've seen Doc with the press over the head being one where he does repetitions with the guy. Sawyer sends him into his corner to tag in his other partner, Mr. Cooper. Cooper doesn't deal any better with things than Backlund did. Big drop kick followed by a lariat style maneuver by Sawyer in the middle of the ring, and Dr. Jeff comes back in, gets the Oklahoma Stampede, 1, 2, 3, and away we go. Dick Slater says that he accepts the challenge to face Butch Reed anytime, any place, and we close this particular edition of Mid-South. Like I said, I think we've got 3 or 4 more available on the network, and I'm going to have to dig for more. But we've got over 1,000 audios for you to check out. Keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment.